Everybody, Fulfillment Project, welcome Tamara Laine to the show, the founder of Empower, a company aiming to rethink how credit and capital get accessed for gig workers and other non-traditional earners, which I'm very interested in. I was in a band for 20 years. A bunch of my friends are gig workers. I use things like Upwork all the time and support the gig working economy, obviously Uber and all these other platforms I use. So when I saw Tamara come across the wire, I thought, how does this work? I want to know more. It's such a neat niche Tamara's in. Empower combines AI and explainability to produce what it calls a credit IP signal and a platform designed to expand reasonable lending while supporting regulatory transparency. Tamara, you bring an unusual path to FinTech, including work in journalism and documentary storytelling. You've spoken publicly about how real-world experience with gig income exposed gaps in the traditional credit system. Welcome to the show, sister.
I'm so thrilled to be here. And I mean, honestly, the Fulfillment Project, I think everything in life is about being fulfilled, right? So this is it. This is why I do the work I do. I love it.
I had a guy call me today and ask what type of industries I was interested in interviewing. And I said, anybody, everywhere, anywhere in the world, because fulfillment touches us all. And Tamara, I'm so excited you're on the show. I just explained a lot about what you and your company do, but how would you define yourself? Who are you as a woman?
Oh my gosh, how do I define myself? I am audacious. I am an audacious entrepreneur that wants to solve global challenges. But that's my one sentence. I should tell you more about myself, right?
Yeah.
um, so as you mentioned, you did so many great intros there. I am a FinTech founder of a new technology called Empower, and we're really solving the data gap that keeps people from achieving the credit and the financial thriving that they deserve. What we've done in Empower is we know that the gig economy, the creator economy, and I'm now starting to call it the new economy, makes up over 50% of the US workforce. And of that 50%, 6 out of 10 are denied loans. And so when I
Whoa.
discovered that number and how profound that is, I thought, I need to come up with a solution to that, right? And as I dug in and dug in and dug in, I discovered it's a data problem, right? The old financial system doesn't understand the new economy, how we work, how we live, how we
Yep.
interact. And so as we dug into that, we said, okay, well, data can solve this problem. But what's very hard in financial systems is pulling data together and going through it quickly, right? We've all gone and applied for student loan, home loan, any of these things, these long processes. You're giving a lot of information. So we've created the solution to that. And what I'm excited about is that solution helps everyone, and it really helps those that have been underserved by the financial system. Yeah. I was about to keep
Awesome.
going on my
And
tangent, but I figured we'll stop. Otherwise, I'll keep talking for an hour.
well, you're a mom to two beautiful children. You're a contributor to the community. Anything else we need to know about you personally before we launch?
Yeah. So I guess I should tell you more about just myself. Um, I'm a journalist at heart, or I say I'm a reformed journalist.
An award-winning journalist.
The award-winning journalist. And that's really shaped who I am, what I do, how I raise my children. So everything that I do because I feel like I want to help people, give them a platform, help elevate voices. I want to empower. This is where empower comes from. I want to empower people through any way that I can. It was journalism. Now it's through technology. And that's really shaped how then I interact with the community. So I'm a mother to two really vivacious kids. I
Great word.
I call my daughter vivacious. She is. I am on the board of a foundation. I I advise other startups, right? My work really is to say, okay, here's what I've learned. How can I help others?
Yeah. Well, my man Plato says the beginning is the most important part of the work. So tell me, your path to FinTech, you're an Emmy award winning journalist, as you just said. It's not the traditional way through Ivy League schools to Wall Street in New York City. What through line connects your earlier work with what you're building now, Tamara?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to go, "Oh my goodness, that's an unconventional path," but when I look at it, you can actually see exactly why I ended up to where I am. So, as a journalist, my job was to uncover challenges and problems and then get to the solutions, right? It was to tell that story. What's wrong? How do you get to someplace better? And every day I had to create a story that was a product and you put it out there in the world and you get feedback and then you work off of that. So you could almost think of like little mini entrepreneurial projects, along every story.
Yeah.
Um, During that time, my job as a journalist was to get in front of people and get that story. So I had to talk to people. I had to learn how to connect with the right person to get me the answer that I needed. And so why I bring that up is that sets me up perfectly to become an entrepreneur. As I went through this journey, and I mean, I worked in the field, and so like I never really was in a traditional office space, right? I was always up early, out late, whatever it took to get the story. And through that process, I helped launch 3 different media companies. And so I got to see the start to finish of launching something firsthand, right? Got my hands dirty on that. And so when I decided to leave the news, the obvious step was working with startups because I knew how to do it. I had done it with media companies. I knew how to tell stories. So how could I help? And I picked female founders to launch companies, to launch products. And so I worked first with communications. And then I got pulled into a team that was building a live selling shopping platform. And it was amazing building something from scratch to scaling it. And that's where I really learned, you know, I learned the marketing stuff, but then I learned really how to operate a company and did that. After I left that, I went to go work for kind of a FinTech company, and my journalism hat came back on, and I started to see this problem, and that's where I went, "Let me go back to my original experience as a journalist and dig in and say, okay, what's the problem? Where can we find a solution?" And now that I know how to build technology, I could see how technology was the solution to this, and I found my co-founder, and that's where we are now.
Empower, baby.
Empower.
All right. So we talk a lot about systems and frameworks on the show. Whenever they come up, I like to extract them because 2 days after this episode airs, I'll put out a personalized reflection guide for each of the listeners so that they can take your message and apply it to their life. It's always great to hear what Tamara Laine's doing, but all the listeners want to know, hey, how can I take what she's done and apply it to my life? So if there are systems and frameworks we can extrapolate, I always like to do that. So this next question is around that for the audience. Uh, In storytelling and journalism, did that train you to notice specific things about people and about systems that has helped you out and empower?
1,000%. Um, I wonder though, I mean, I don't know if it's a replicable system because what I learned with being a journalist was really how to read people and trust your gut. And a lot of journalism, especially in kind of investigative journalism, is being able to spot a trend or spot the thing that's different, right? In a mess. And so I had to train myself to sort out the noise and spot what was different or emerging. And that's why you can be first to a story, right? That's why you can be the one that breaks a big story, breaks news, is at the front of it. And I would say part of that is experience, and the other part of it is sheer gut and willing to trust your instinct.
Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend. So I'll have to, as I re-listen to this, think through this. But I think one way to grow instinct, to grow intuition, is to take risks.
Yeah.
And I feel like as a reporter, and my day job is in sales, you just get a lot of at-bats to fail. And most people limit their risk for failure in daily life. And that's really, I think, how you grow. And reporters are psychos, if you don't mind me saying so. And you just have to put yourself in the most uncomfortable situations to get the story, to be there, to be the first to break the news. And it's similar. I've actually never found a good counterpart to sales, because you just get rejected so often. But I think journalist is the next, or maybe even crazier, kind of like goalies in any sport. Your head has to be screwed on a little sideways to be willing to put yourself in that situation.
Percent. And I think you're right. I mean, I think I've actually been talking a lot recently about failure and the importance of failure. And it really ties in with risk.
Me too. Yeah.
I think being comfortable with failure is the most important thing that you can do to any aspect of your life, but especially when it comes to growing a business. Because if you're not comfortable with failure, you're not willing to take the big risk that will get you that quantum leap, right? That will get you the client that you didn't think that you could get. That will help you get into the spotlight. You have to be comfortable and have an appetite to know that, like, you are going to stumble. That is a part of life. And if you have anxiety around that, and if you are uncomfortable around it, then you're never going to be as fulfilled with the path that you're on, the journey that you're on. You're not going to take the chances that could get you to that magical place that you want to get to.
You've worked with a lot of women leaders and founders. What do you say to people that do have a lot of anxiety around failure and risk taking? They have a big dream, but they also have a lot of anxiety around the hurdles between them and their dream. What do you say to them?
The sad truth is that no one cares if you fail. No one really cares. Worst case scenario, it's a few-day news cycle, right? And then you pick yourself back up and you build something great, or you do something great. That one thing, if you can internalize it, to know that, like, you're not the center of everybody's world, meaning that they're going to care for a second and then they're going to go back to their thing. And because when you think about it as someone who thinks, oh my gosh, they've got anxiety around failure, they think that that one thing is going to ruin their life, and that everyone's going to talk about it and it's going to be the center of everybody's world. And the truth is, it is not. It's not going to ruin their life. It's not going to ruin other people's, like, and you put it in perspective. I'm certain that someone could say, oh, well, but like, what if you embezzled money? Or like, no, let's put that, like, let's just talk about, like, risk and
anything moral and ethical, which is everything we talk on this show. It's like within the bounds of morals and ethics. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the hard truth, is that you are more concerned about it than anyone else will ever be. And so take that risk, because you're going to, the worst that could happen, if you imagine the worst that could happen, is a momentary discomfort compared to the reward that you could see at the other side.
I've talked a lot about the necessity of failure and discomfort and growth, and about we were just talking the other day on the show about how in 2 generations, nobody will remember you. If you think back in history, like, do you know your great grandparents' name, your great great parents' name? Like Alexander the Great, Hannibal. There's a couple people throughout history we remember, but there's billions more we don't. And chances are we are going to be those people. But I never drew the link that you just connected, Tamara, which is that's kind of a safety blanket for risk taking, is that nobody really does care about you. No one's looking at you. Everyone's too preoccupied with themselves to be caring about you. So go and do it. And if you fail, nobody's going to notice anyway for long enough for it to matter.
That's the point, right? You are going to get like, there's going to be a little discomfort, but it's not the discomfort that you are imagining in your head of everything collapsing and people talking about you behind your, like it's, it's momentary. Um, and yeah, so that's 100% it. And we can't get out of our own ways sometimes because we think, oh my gosh, what if this is, like spirals and then there's no, it's not going to happen. And if it
Yeah.
does, you learn how to pick up the pieces and you don't do it again.
And full disclosure, just because you take risks doesn't mean you're always successful. There's absolute failure sometimes. And that's part of the journey, which is why we also talk on the show. Tamara, I want your take on this before I move on to my next question that's relevant to Empower. You have to fall in love with the journey of what you're doing. You can't just chase an outcome. You need to love what you're doing because then all the failures, all the day-to-day effort is fulfilling to you. And if you're just waiting for the retirement, the big paycheck, the windfall, it's like you're going to be waiting a long time for something that may or may not come. And if you do get it, chances are by the time you get it, your eyes will be set on the next goalpost and you won't even appreciate it when it comes. Right, wrong, or in where am I there?
Oh, right. To the 110%. It's interesting. I was just talking with my team about this. I've had 2 conversations about this in the last week and a half. One was I was kind of talking with a mentor and I said, I've lost my joy in this a little bit. And she said, you're stuck in your to-do list. And I went,
Ooh,
oh, yeah, you're 100% right. I'm heads down and I'm just checking off. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Um,
yes.
and I went, oh, and so then I went and I talked to my team and I said, hey, we can't get burned out, right? Because we're launching a product. I was like, we can't get burned out. We have to fill our own cup. And I need to make sure that each of you are doing that. And one of my team members, uh, it was so fun because she was like, this is the moment we're gonna remember. She was like, we're gonna look back and we're gonna remember like these are the fun times of us coming together and scraping together ideas and doing, and I just went, that's so true. And so as much as we have to get things done, um, we're making a concerted effort to figure out how to insert that joy and that love of the journey in there, which is also particularly hard when you're remote. So I know that's
Hmm.
something that, teams that are remote struggle with. And I've led remote teams a lot over my entire career. Um, and I find like I'm now going, oh yeah, like we haven't put into place those things for enjoying the journey, especially when you're remote. So yeah, that you're spot on. I have no solutions yet though. Other than get out of your to-do list and open and look up and try and see the beautiful world around you.
Yeah, well, let me get your take on this because this is what I recommended to the audience. And it may not be specific enough for you, but you have to identify your purpose in your work, not just your tasks in your work. So zoom out and understand what you're doing. And you're not just, um, the example I used was with my electrician putting wires in a wall. You are giving a family, my family, electricity, which gives us groceries, which gives us the ability to heat our house and to plug in our TV and to do all these things. And it's not just the task. We get so caught up in our tasks, like you're talking about, where you forget what's the purpose. And we're about to jump into Empower, which is a massive purpose impacting millions, tens of millions of people. And I almost said a billion. I mean, maybe there's 6 billion
Globally,
people in the world. How many?
globally, you'll get
Yeah.
close. As we expand globally, yeah, you could get close to a billion.
So it's like reflection time is required, and especially in a diversified work group like you have remotely, you have to zoom out and come together and think about what are we doing? Why are we doing it? So that the tasks all make sense. And people can decide if they want to stay on the team or not. Maybe they don't love the purpose, and in which case, maybe it's time to find a purpose you can fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certain, uh, almost everyone I come across knows my purpose. Like, I got off of a sales call today where we were talking with, someone who wants to use our product, and at the end of it, I was like, "And I just want you to know," and I went into, like, my mission. Like, "This is why I started this company. This is what I want to happen. This is what drives me." And it's funny because my team has gotten used to it, but every time someone hears it, from a lending institution, they're kinda like, 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 "You telling us your purpose?" "Yes, because it's very important to me."
Incredible. When did you first realize the credit system wasn't built for the way modern people earn money?
I wish I could say earlier than I did, because I had 2 parts of my career, right? I had the first part of my career where I was like a freelance, journalist and choreographer, and I had experienced the financial problems that I'm looking at now, right? Couldn't get
Yeah.
because I thought I was being responsible, didn't have credit cards, couldn't get a loan, right? Didn't have any credit history because I paid everything out of my bank account, couldn't get an apartment. So experienced all that, but didn't really realize the huge inequities until more recently. I've worked in financial fluency for 8 years, working on different projects. And it was always the same thing. It's like, how do we get people to understand their money so that they can make better decisions? And the
Mhm.
problem with that is it's not everybody's specialty, right? It's not the majority.
In fact, it's most people's unspecialty. They run from
They
it.
run from it. It is something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And so you can
Mhm.
hammer home these courses, you can have, but it is usually like putting a cat in a bath. It is something that is very hard. So I had seen that firsthand. And then when I started working with a company that was doing technical assistance, I saw it in even greater perspective, which was small business owners trying to access credit and capital. And the challenge of banks trying to do that. And as I listened and I learned, I was like, this is really interesting because I see the challenge. And then when I started digging into the numbers, I was like, "Oh my gosh. This is I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of people who are financially viable left out of the financial system." And so that was about a year ago when I really started digging in. And because I know, I've created technology before, I was like, there is a technical solution to this that just has not been, like obviously, like any startup, just has been overlooked. Why? Because it's hard to do. And I think I hit that magic moment where AI is able to do something that couldn't be done before, which is sort through all this complex data that's needed in a way that's fast and that's reliable. But what we needed, and so my co-founder and I, when I came together with my co-founder and we discussed this, what was needed was a new way of doing agentic technology. So kind of the secret sauce with our platform is we've created a new agentic technology that sorts through data, that doesn't need to be structured. Because the largest problem, and this is one of the problems in the financial industry, it's true for healthcare as well, is that you have to structure your data in order for agents to read it. It's very hard. It's time consuming. If you want new data, the whole system might need to be restructured, right? It's very hard. And so that is a huge inhibitor to a platform like what we're solving, to do. So when we created this new platform, we opened up all the opportunity to be able to sort through this data and make it very easy for our lenders to understand the viability of more customers.
So are you connecting the gig workers' bank account and credit cards to an agentic engine, and it's sorting through it and telling the bank their income and expenses and categorizing it?
So we can pull from hundreds of different sources to create a whole picture, and that's where the credit IP comes in, to create a whole picture of who this person is. And then through that picture, we can give recommendations to the lender. So, and probabilities. And what's really special about our platform is our goal is to get to yes. So we have a couple of proprietary things on our platform that help get to a yes. One is a slider of probability and credit IP. So let's just say you come in, you want a $10,000 loan. After we do all the calculations, it is not in your best interest for a $10,000 loan. We could suggest a $7,000 loan because that would be more in line with what we see could be repaid. Now, traditionally, if you went in for a $10,000 loan and the bank or the lender, sees it and the kind of credit scoring is bad, you just get rejected, right? So now what we're doing is we're creating the opportunity for maybe not exactly what someone wants, but not leaving them completely high and dry.
Is that what you mean when you say you're trying to get to a yes? Where even if it's not the initial request, you're getting to some yes that might be less than the initial request.
Yes, exactly. But it still, like again, it could substantially help the person and keep them in the financial system versus, not being able to start a business or not being able to get their bike for their food delivery service, right? Like the being flat out rejected is not good because then you end up going, you could go to a pawn shop. Um so like that keeping people in that system helps them immensely, even if it's not exactly what they're asking for.
Credit IP. What does IP stand for?
So we were calling it an operating system at first, but credit IP is your personal credit identity.
Got it. So it's not an acronym. IP doesn't stand for anything.
Well, no, no, no. It's just like, like you have your own IP, your own intellectual property. Sorry, it is.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I think of
Yeah,
it as
sorry.
IP, intellectual property.
Yeah, your own.
Um,
It's because what I would love, and I'd love to move towards this, it's kind of in our roadmap, is the ability for someone to own their own credit identity, right? Instead of it being owned by third parties. So,
like Equifax or one of those other ones where it's over there.
yeah,
I get to present my credit IP to someone and say, "Hey, I need this financing. Here's my IP."
yeah, I need this apartment rental, or you're going cross border, right? So, right now, if you go to Spain and you try and rent an apartment or get a credit card or anything like that, the hurdles that you'll face are immense because your credit score here does not translate to any other place. It's the same problem with people who are coming from outside the US to the US. Um, they could own several houses in India and then come to the US. None of that translates, right? It's a huge process. So being able to own your credit IP, I think is going to be a transformative technology in the near future.
Sounds like it. Where do you think traditional scoring is still useful? And I think you just talked about where it falls short, but where is it still useful with credit IP?
Well, so we still use traditional information, right? So the information in traditional credit scoring is still useful. It's just incomplete. So so I
Good, not great.
good, not great, right? Because it's just incomplete. If you think about how people bank now, so like if you look at Gen Z, if we go off traditional scoring for Gen Z, no one's ever going to get a house, because Gen Z, they, the majority. I'm going to just talk majority, and like these are the surveys that are coming out. Many of them don't like to use credit cards, so you're gonna have minimal credit cards. Not like my generation, which I think I have like 15 credit cards. I'm stacking points. I'm at airport lounges, right? Um, so Gen Z uses minimal credit cards. They're more likely to rent than own at the moment, right? Which mortgages are a huge part of our traditional credit scoring. They do buy now, pay later at a higher rate. So they're less likely to get like a smaller loan. Again, less likely to get a credit card because they're using these other systems. They're using Venmo. They're not using um, Capital One. It's just a whole different way of them banking. So if we go off of that traditional score, Gen Z is going to have a real hard time. So you have to think about other ways to understand how they are creditworthy.
Wow. And it's tax season right now. So people with a traditional income send their W-2 to their accountant or upload it to TurboTax and they with all the paperwork and they do their taxes. What does a gig worker do to file their taxes?
Oh, I mean, that's not my area of expertise. I actually don't know because I know there's people that are tackling this problem because I've talked to founders who are talking about this. Um, Especially in like the CXO world right now, the fractional executives, there's a lot of new technology coming out to help with just that problem because it's such an interesting new work style. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do know people who are trying to tackle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Explainability is a big claim in regulated environments. How do you define explainable in a way regulators and borrowers both understand?
Phenomenal question, and I spend so much of my time thinking about this and also talking about it. So
So explain to the guests first or to the audience of what is explainability. That's not a common term to most people.
So in lending, you have to be able to explain your decisioning, right? Especially when it comes to your underwriting systems. Um, the Fair Lending Act is a big part of saying, like you can't use certain attributes to make decisions, and you need to be fair and balanced. Everything needs to be, I'm going to say data driven, but that's not what they use. Explainability is critical in order to have fair lending that isn't biased, right? And so when you look at explainability, right now the system is it's human based, right? Which is good. People get to make decisions on not only the data in front of them, but also the feeling that they have, right? Like we are human. We are human and we need to accept that. That's beautiful part about us is that we have emotions, we have unconscious bias, all those things. Um, with AI and the platform that we've created specifically, you can actually have traceable, immutable decision trails, which make the product, as fair and compliant as can be. And what's amazing about that is from the borrower's perspective, you get to see why, what happened, right? I got accepted, I got denied. What was the decision in there? What were the main points? Um, which I don't think in any loan that I've ever gotten, I really find out why, right? Like you're just like, oh, I think for a credit card once I got like my credit limits to, my credit spend to my limits was too close. And so I didn't get a credit card. But with ours, all of that is in our system and transparent. So for our lenders, we have an area that you can go to and you can, for every single loan, you can get the decision trail of everything that happened and why the decision was made. For our borrowers, you don't get as intense of something because that's a lot of data to parse through, but you get the highlights as to why. I think this is the most critical thing to a platform and especially in AI because one, as a borrower, how do you improve if you don't know what
Yeah.
happened, right? How do you dispute if you don't know the reasoning? Um, as a lender, you are as compliant as can be, and it makes you so ready for anything that you need to give. Um, I showed our product to a compliance expert yesterday, who does compliance for a lot of fintechs and larger banks, and he was like, "This is beautiful," and I was like, "We've put a lot of thought into this." I was like, "We think about this every day."
It makes so much sense. Explainability. So if someone falls short, you tell them, hey, these are the areas you need to clean up because this is why you got less than you requested. Is there another side of that promotes like, hey, you got what you wanted because of these points? Does it go that far on the other end of the
The
spectrum?
decision is that just the highlight of the decision gets a few bullet points as to why, whether it's good or whether it's not good. So, you kind of,
Great.
on either side of it.
I love that. How do you prevent your system from turning into surveillance? What I'm thinking now is like all my transactions are plugged into Empower. And where's the ethical line? Who sets it? Who gets to see the data?
So your data, how do I explain that? Because yeah, there's no surveillance, right? Like the data's hooked up. There's not someone in your accounts. All the data that can be pulled is the data that would be publicly available, or not publicly, but the data that's available through all the current systems, right? So Empower isn't creating a new way to voyeur into accounts, right? The only information that we can pull is information that is consent, that you have consent to pull. So that's the really good thing about what we've created. Again, like we are all up on the regulations, and privacy is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the social score in China and how this is making me think of that, but this is really not that. Or is it?
No. So actually what's interesting is as we started looking at our product when we first started of how we could create credit IP, there was there was discussion about how do we scrape, this information because in order to create a really interesting score, you can scrape social media, you can scrape, you know, reviews, you can do all this stuff, which there's a benefit to it in a transparent way, right? There's a benefit to it, a small business owner who's got great reviews on Yelp to have that pulled into their credit IP because that's going to
Yeah.
benefit them immensely, right? Same with like an Uber driver or something like that. So there's a great benefit to some of these things. And then there's great peril when it's done in a way that isn't transparent and without consent. And so there are some platforms that I know that are, basically doing just this huge scrape of data and then pulling it together and spitting out an answer, right? And we don't believe that that's the solution. And when you talk about China's scoring, a lot of the things that are dangerous with that too are like, you know, it's almost like on social media how you can comment on people. Like people can it's all you get like a rating system, and that's really dangerous because anyone who's had a business before knows that they've ticked off a customer and gotten a terrible review. Um that shouldn't follow them around forever you know, because people's opinions vary from day to day, and you could have just found someone on a really rough day and then they give you a terrible review. Um that's the Chinese system really borders on that, where it can be really unfair. When you look at some of the things that we can do now, that's why I believe in ethical AI, transparency, trust, um, the understanding of what's being gathered and why is the number one thing that we can do to build trust so that we can do things that are better with better decisioning and that unlocks opportunity without becoming, that uh, big brother state.
Yeah. My man Winston Churchill says the price of greatness is responsibility. So let's go to ethical AI. You've talked about it. as kind of Wild West territory. What do you think responsible builders must do before the regulations catch up? You said a second ago, you guys, of course, you follow all the regulations and all of this, but you're cutting edge. Like, I think you're ahead of the regulators. What's required of you beyond the regulation?
One of the things I kind of preach about a lot, and I think it's incredibly important, is diversity in your team. So in AI, what we know, and it's actually was one of the things that I carried with me from the story that I did that won the Emmy, was the team that creates your product inadvertently inserts biases into the product, right? And this is where I go back to we're human. We aim to do good, but there could be consequences to the good that we aim to do. Tom's was a great case study on this, right? Tom's shoes. It was buy a pair, give a pair. And the meaning behind it was awesome, right? Like the intention, amazing. They're going to give shoes to kids in South America and they're going to solve such a great problem. Inadvertently, they ended up shutting down a lot of the local shoemakers and
Yeah.
devastating a part of the economy that they did not mean to, like, again, their intentions were good. So you have to like think, okay, so had they had someone on their team from South America, could they have avoided this problem? So the thinking of that in AI is the diversity of your team will create a better product for all. So you should start with that. You should start with, okay, I'm going to make a product. I need to have as many people giving input and looking at this from diverse communities um, in order to make sure that we are trying to do this to the best way possible to positively affect people's lives.
That's a great take. That's actually a really great take. What does bias look like in lending decisions when the borrower is non-traditional?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question. I mean, we can we can look all around us for bias, right? There's not one of us that doesn't have bias or unconscious bias. Um, and and it can affect so many. Whenever I say that I'm creating a platform that helps gig workers access capital and credit, right? Everyone immediately thinks of an Uber driver. And
Yeah, it was one of my first thoughts.
everyone immediately thinks of an Uber driver and they think that they must be broke. And that one is not the case at all. An Uber driver can be making great money. That can be one of their several gigs, right? But two, the gig economy is huge. Um, you've got freelance writers, you've got CXOs, you've got, exited founders who now are consulting. Like the gig economy is so vast, it can't be
All the influencers on all the
creators.
platforms.
Exactly. So that's one of the biases that you can see that that has gone into, like how gig workers or anyone in the new economy um, can face with lending.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I want to understand this. What I think I understand is you're selling Empower to banks. And by a bank picking up Empower, it will allow them to lend to more people. Because traditionally, a gig worker wouldn't be, you go to PNC Bank and they're like, give me your W-2, give me this and that. And you're like, I don't have that. And they say, we can't help you. So both people are hurting because the bank has capital that it wants to lend out. The consumer wants the capital to do whatever they want to do with that.
Yeah,
You're selling your services to the bank so that they effectively can serve more people. Therefore, they'll make more money and more people can be served. Is that fair?
absolutely. And what we've really done after a lot of our product design is, again, the mission is to serve the new economy, but our product now is designed to help everyone. So from prime users to subprime users and everywhere in between, our AI agents. So we've created 6 AI agents on top of our data technology platform. Our agents help everyone, and it makes a personalized experience that's better for the borrower, better for the lender, because the lender is getting happy customers that are going through a really efficient system that's quick and easy, and the lenders are getting more information to make better decisions.
So as a consumer, can I go on Empower right now and do anything, or would I have to access it through my bank? Or is it all white labeled? Do you even see Empower? Are you just the invisible thing in the background?
Yep, we want to be the infrastructure. We want to be the infrastructure that makes it work.
Wow. What a humble act of service to just be in the background, facilitating service so people can realize their dreams. And Tamara Laine's not on the front cover, pointing their finger at you saying you can make it happen. Tamara's nowhere to be seen. You've just built it in the background to help the institutions that already exist, help the people that already exist come together in the new economy. That's a beautiful thing. It's giving me goosebumps, actually.
I appreciate that. I haven't
Uh,
heard it that way. I That's very nice.
well, it actually makes me wonder a little bit, why come on the podcast then? What's the goal for you here today? Typically, people are sharing about their book, their ideas, their philosophies, promoting something that the consumer, the audience can tap into.
Because we need to start thinking differently as a collective. And as we think about that and as it gets into our thoughts, it will trickle out, right? We need to start thinking about the new economy differently. This is something that the economy has changed, and the resources that are needed, the technology that's needed needs to accommodate that. And so that's my goal, is just evangelizing. Lots has changed and we need to meet that moment.
Wow, everyone thinks AI is going to kill the economy. And what I've learned through the show, through Neil Twa using agentic AI to market products on digital platforms, Andy Elwood is creating an agentic agent that represents the consumers. So everyone in my city who's buying paper towel, you can use AI to pool our shopping lists to barter with the grocery stores to get the best price. Hey, Kroger or Walmart, who wants our business? We got 1,000 people buying these items this week. Who's going to do? Finally, AI is working on behalf of the consumer. You're using AI to support the new economy gig worker that is oftentimes left out on the sideline to figure out what's going on. Everyone thinks AI is going to crush the economy. And it's like when the calculator was released. There are more accountants today than there were before calculators were released. And it's like, what are we going to need accountants for? You're not going to need them to it's like it unleashes. AI is unleashing a whole brand new side of the economy that's never even been thought of before. And you're opening my eyes to this. It's one of my favorite parts of the podcast is like, I learned so much, and I hope the audience gets a lot out of this too. Just Tamara, from you tapping into this. This is incredible.
I'm so happy. I've loved this conversation. You've asked really great questions that have made me think.
All right, let's wrap this up. Aristotle, one of my favorites, says, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. You've worked across journalism, strategy, and now FinTech. What leadership trait became more important with each transition? So we've got a lot of leaders that listen to this, a lot of aspiring leaders that listen to this. You've been through several different career shifts, very accomplished, seemingly in everything you've touched. What leadership trait became more important with each of your transitions? Just to reiterate it there.
You know, the ability to talk and connect with people is a leadership skill that has to be practiced um, and honed. And I think for the beginning of my career in moving, from journalism into technology, people would say, I had more of the you'd say the visionary energy of, look at what we're going to change the world, and people come follow me and we're going to do this together. Right. And like really champion. And, that's something that's really nice, but bringing in the empathy of leading teams and the empathy of trying to bring out the best in everyone around you in order to make your team rise makes things happen faster. And so the leadership skill that I've really tried to harness now with that understanding is, how do I surround myself with the best team? And how do I elevate each team member to do the work that I can't do in order to make our product the best it can be and accelerate faster? I have to surround myself by people that are smarter than me. I have to surround myself with people who do things that I cannot do, maybe don't even understand. And I need to empower them to do their best work. And there are some leaders who don't do that. And I think that that's the biggest error that you could make if you want your company to grow fast.
As I've grown, I've noticed there are certain leaders that want to be the smartest person in the room, the most capable person in the room. And when someone asks me what's my secret sauce, I say I'm surrounded by people better than me. And I'm not scared of that. And I'm vulnerable with my weaknesses, and I lift other people up so that they can shine. A true leader can't be, if you want to scale to where you want to go, you can't be everything to everyone. And I love your idea there, Tamara, where you have to lift up the team if you want to achieve the ambitious goals you want to achieve. That's so beautiful. All right, Tamara, last question for the day. A lot of gig workers must be listening. We get between 28,000 and 35,000 unique listens a month. If a gig worker is listening right now to this and takes one action in the next 24 hours, what should it be?
Love that question. They can call their bank and say that they want their bank to use Empower to help them so that they get a better experience with their lending and their banking. So the website is MPWRAI.com. That's MPWRAI.com. Call your bank, email your bank, tell your team members at your bank to go to that site and that they need to use us. That would be amazing. And that's how we help small businesses as well. You do the same thing. You tell people to use them.
Boom. Tamara, you get the last word. What I miss? What didn't we talk about? What do you need to convey to the beautiful audience?
This was a wonderful conversation. I'm thrilled you asked me about my mission. That's what I normally would say I want to convey, just that we need to change the way that our financial system interacts with the new economy. That's my final word. I've preached it all day, so I will leave it there. But I would love to connect with people. So go to my LinkedIn, Tamara Laine, DM me, connect with me. That's the best way. And I'm so thrilled to be on this podcast, the Fulfillment Podcast. That's the way that we should live our life.
Amen. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. Tamara, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to share this episode with a friend, share the podcast with a friend, like, subscribe. It really goes a long way to helping the algorithm put us at the top of everyone's listen list. See you next time. Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend.